Trust. I am Chelsie Runnings here with Better Homes and Gardens, and I have my co-host Daren Blonski with Sonoma Wealth Advisors and Mary Piasta with Haeuser, Valluzzo, and Piasta. And today we are kind of going to take it a little differently. We have some not ranting or venting, but we want to dive a little deep into something because I just read the book Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins, and it has opened my eyes to a world of financial things that I never knew before. So I wanted to bring Daren in, have Daren break down some of the things that I read in that book, specifically about kickbacks that you deal with when you have, I don't know if it was 401ks, but when dealing with financial advisors, the kickbacks they get for directing you and your money to specific accounts, and just how to get as much transparency as possible when paying somebody to help you make money decisions. And I'm sure as an estate planning attorney, Mary often sees clients coming in with annuities and wondering if those are the best things for people to get. And just, I want Daren to break down a lot of this stuff. I think Daren's probably very familiar with the book Money Master the Game, and he can help us break down what we need to look for, how to save our money, and how to get the most bang for buck when we hire a financial advisor. Right, Daren?
You got it. So let's actually deal with the first part of that, is when should you hire a financial advisor, right? Or should you even hire a financial advisor? I mean, that's the first question. There's a lot of great technology tools out there today that help you manage your money on your own. And certainly a lot of people can do it on their own, but should you hire a money manager? Should you hire someone? Vanguard put out some really great and has done research for years on the value the advisor provides for their clients. And the first value the advisor provides is really the emotional coaching around when not to buy and when not to sell, because most clients, I can tell you, sell at the wrong times and buy at the wrong times. Generally, unless you've done a lot of work on yourself and your own biases as it relates to money, you're going to make mistakes. You just are. And so that advisor can really act as a sounding board. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this or thinking about doing that. We've got a lot of do-it-yourselfers that made a bunch of money during the very choppy markets we had during COVID, and now that are starting to lose some of that money. We saw that happen in September, where we saw a lot of people who bought options got a pie in the face, as we say, because things were really great for a while, and then they were really difficult in September. So it's important advisors really provide kind of that counseling and helping you make good decisions with your money. And secondly, they can really help you navigate what the best way to save is and what's the most efficient way to save. And then third, they can really help with what should that overall portfolio construct look like and for you and for what your goals are financially in your life. So if you think you fit within any of those three major needs, then yeah, it could make some sense to hire an advisor for yourself.
Well, and Daren, as an estate planner, I do often have clients who come in and they're looking for that. So I give them a list of names. So as you step into the next stage of it, part of that evaluation when people are choosing their advisor, I mean, I wonder, because it is a professional service, how are you guys compensated?
Well, so I think it's good, Mary, that you give your clients a list of names. And I always encourage clients to interview their advisor, and you need to ask them some really important questions, because not all advisors are the same and they're not all compensated the same. So generally speaking, I would say there's three categories of advisors out there. You're going to have the insurance agent, who I like to say is a glorified insurance agent that tries to act like a financial advisor. And what you typically get it's the person with the hammer, right? Everything's a nail, everything's a hammer, and every problem financially gets fixed with an insurance policy, and often a policy that you don't belong in. So I typically don't recommend that people use a purely licensed insurance agent as their financial advisor, because they're going to look at their financial situation through the prism of insurance. And ultimately, we all know that if you look at something through your biases, you end up filtering a lot of things with that bias and then get one result as an outcome.
Well, let's talk about that. So the person who does it through the insurance spectrum, they're getting kickbacks from the insurer, right? As well as the client who's paying them for the services? How does
Well,
that work?
the way insurance works is typically it depends if they're what's called a captive agent or a broker, right? If so, a captive agent, if they work for, let's say Utah Life Insurance Company, I don't know, I just made that up. And that life insurance company will say, you can only sell the life insurance that we offer. That's a captive agent. Whereas a broker will say, I can use this company or this company or this company, and they'll look for the best deal, right? So there's deviations of the insurance agents. I always recommend people use a broker when it comes to insurance. Allow that insurance agent to actually shop the different companies. The conflicts you have to be careful with is what happens. Let's say, for example, Acme Insurance Company goes to Joe Blow, the insurance agent, and Acme Insurance Company will go to Joe Blow and will offer different things like, hey, why don't you come to New York and learn all about our products, or what we call those due diligence trips. All expense paid trip vacation for you and a loved one to explore the Big Apple. And so they go and they sit there for 2 days and they learn all about Acme Insurance Company. And then they are more likely then to recommend that product over another product. So that's the first conflict that exists there. Those are very common in the industry. They've gotten less common because of some of the regulations during the Obama administration, but they're still very common. The other conflict that exists is, let's say, if it's a captive agent and they're only offering one policy, and this is very similar to Vanguard. People love to tout Vanguard as an incredible place to invest your money. And that's not to say Vanguard can't be a great place to invest your money. But when you call Vanguard, you're calling a company that's going to sell you their product. So you're not getting advice that is in your best interest necessarily. You're not getting advice that you're getting advice that is essentially driven by that company trying to sell a particular product at you. So I always tell people, if you're paying anything to Vanguard to manage your money, you're paying too much. Why? Because you're paying them to sell you their stuff. I mean, think about that. That's crazy. Like, I'm going to pay you to sell your product to me. Like, okay, I guess if I'm buying the product from you, that's okay, but they're only going to recommend their product. They're not going to recommend another product.
Right, and this is why you can opting with an independent broker can be really beneficial, because you don't have that complex conflict of interest, right?
Yeah, and I kind of jumped on the listener here, because you've got the insurance agents, and so you have the captive agent, you have the broker agent. Now let's move over to the next category of advisors you might come across, and these are the hybrid advisors. So hybrid advisors, in some instances, will act as fiduciaries to the client, which means they act in the best interest of the client, or they might act as a broker, and they could kind of switch back and forth, so you don't know really who you're getting. Pretty much every major firm you can think of the big ones, let's not use names, but think of the big ones out there, the ones down the street that you see 10 of them in every town, those are hybrid advisors. They can pivot between being a broker or being kind of like a fiduciary to you, but not really. There's a new best interest law out there that mandates that they act in best interest, but brokers are renowned for finding ways to skirt around things and to create all kinds of legal hurdles. And so that hybrid advisor, while a lot of them are very great people, they're in a conflicted system. And what does that conflicted system mean? Well, let's take, for example, there's a company in town that has green letters and is very well known. And that company in town has what they call preferred partners. So I can pretty much tell you, if you say, Mary, I went into this company, I can almost tell you what kind of portfolio you're going to get. Why is that? Well, it happens that that particular company pays almost $100 million to that brokerage every year to allow their advisors to talk to their clients about those particular funds. And I'm being very opaque here because I'm just trying not to use names. But the point is that there are mutual fund companies paying brokerages so that their advisors will talk about their particular funds. They say, oh, no, that doesn't bias us at all. Come on now, let's be real, right? If you get more access to advisors as a firm, you are going to be able to influence them more. Right. And so that's on a preferred partner list that this firm might have that would likely make that advisor more likely to recommend those funds to their clients. That's a conflict of interest. So the important part is disclose it. There's always conflicts of interest. So the difference between, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and that's the thing, right? Disclosing the conflict. In my profession, it's huge. And Chelsie, in your profession, in real estate too, I mean, there are specific forms if you're going to represent both sides of the transaction. And I think real estate's a neat example because, I mean, it's upfront, right? Like your commissions are upfront. Everybody knows what percentage you're going to get, right? So there is a transparent process.
Well, when I was reading the book, it was, and Daren and I, we've kind of done a video previously with Tony Valluzzo about this as well. I have to act as a fiduciary for my client, which, like Daren said earlier, means I have to act in the best interest of my client. You, as an attorney, you also have to act as a fiduciary for your clients. So I was mind blown to find out that they don't all have to act as a professional fiduciary or a fiduciary when handling your money until Daren did bring up the new law or something that was passed, I think in September or something like that. But when you're having somebody deal with your money, with your future, your family's future, you would expect them to be as upfront and as honest and as transparent as possible, and to know that they're getting kickbacks to steer you into buying something is so slimy to me and so just unacceptable. And when I read that in that book and then I talked to Daren about it, I mean, I know I'm young, but I have a feeling that there is a lot of people who have no idea that there's all this stuff happening in the backgrounds. And I'm sure Daren probably gets a lot of clients all the time who, when he talks about fees and everything, it's probably like a whole like snowball effect that can go on forever, because it's just, you would never expect that lack of transparency to come from somebody who's managing your money and your future.
So a couple stories just to illustrate this. When I started off in the business, I worked for a brokerage. Right now I'm a fiduciary. I moved and became a full-time, work in the best interest of my client firm. But I worked in the brokerage business. In the brokerage business, like 2 months into the starting the business, I was shooting an email to a client and I referred to myself as a financial planner. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, help you as a financial planner, yada, yada, yada. I got an email back from the compliance department saying you're not allowed to refer to yourself as a financial planner. And I said, well, why is that? I mean, that's what I do for people. And they're like, well, that could insinuate that you're working in the best interest of the client.
Aren't you? Like,
okay.
What?
From that moment on, I knew my career would be short-lived in the brokerage business, and that I would be moving to become a fiduciary for my clients and working as a financial planner for them. So I think that's really important, that whenever you go out to hire an advisor, you've got to ask, are you working in my best interest? Now, there's a really easy way to do that because it can be very convoluted, and the business has done a very well job in the brokerage business of making it convoluted and difficult to understand. But if you simply ask your advisor you're interviewing whether or not they are a Series 7's license, you'll know really quick whether or not they're a broker. If they say yes to that, they're operating and could operate as a broker to you and maybe not be operating in your best interest, although the SEC mandates that they operate in best interest. It's not always how it plays out. So that law is a new law. We're still watching how that and what that actually means, because all the lawyers got involved, no offense, Mary, and made it very convoluted. So at the end of the day, what I tell clients is this: if you're going to hire someone to help you with your money, you need to hire a fiduciary. A fiduciary means they're going to operate and they will take a best interest obligation and commitment to you. If they're not willing to do that at all times, 100% of the time, you need to interview further and find somebody else, because you only get to retire once. And the last thing you want to do is bet your retirement on someone who's going to be pitching products and services at you. These companies, the brokerages, get paid millions and millions and millions of dollars every year to offer certain products that are not necessarily the best products for you, because those products offer kickbacks.
And that's a huge thing. So I would think the fiduciary relationship would be part of the client agreement, right? Do you just include that?
Well, so when you're working with a fiduciary, every client signs a client agreement that more or less states that, we're going to be working in your best interest. And it's spelled out in plain English. If you don't sign an agreement with the client, then a lot of brokerages, you're kind of signing agreements, you're opening accounts, but you're not necessarily signing the agreement, or the agreement might be in with the account documents. I always say this too: if you're not sure if your advisor's a fiduciary or not, ask them to explain their fees and all their conflicts of interest. Because when I talk with my clients, it's a very simple discussion. The fee part takes about 30 seconds. And then the second conflict of interest that I say to them, the conflict of interest I have with you is that I want your business. That's my conflict.
Right, versus having a conflict between representing them and your own business profits through relationships with the other party.
That's right, because a lot of the mutual fund families or the investment families, the insurance companies will pay the advisors or the advisor's firm to have access to being one of the options that the people can buy when they go to see those advisors. When you're working with a fiduciary, we don't make any money that way. The only person that pays us is the client. We charge a fee, and that's an annual fee. It's disclosed. You can see it on your statement. It's clear as day what we're being paid to do our job for you.
Well, this is such an important conversation in general. I think the theme is when you're hiring a professional, especially with your money, make sure you really understand the relationship and the financial side of that transaction. And it permeates to other professionals too. Like, make sure you understand your deal with your realtors and your lawyers. Like, really push to have that fee agreement. Because if people don't, I think that's where there's a lack of transparency, that's where there's confusion, and that's where there's a risk for things happening that aren't in the best interest of the individual.
And there's a lot of really great advisors out there. That will operate as a fiduciary to their clients at all times. There's no reason why a consumer should have to navigate a relationship with an advisor that's just not a fiduciary to them, is not willing to act in their best interest at all times. And it just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that person might be a really great person and might come highly recommended from a friend of yours. But at the end of the day, you need to know that that advisor is working for you and not for the insurance company or not for the mutual fund company that they are serving.
I mentioned earlier, we did a video a while back on a fiduciary, so I'll put a link right up at the top of this video for you guys.
Is it at the bottom of it or the top of it?
I'm gonna put it up in the top. So
Remember to subscribe. I think we're up to like 45 subscribers, guys.
Like and subscribe to our channel. But if you're interested in learning more about fiduciaries and how they work for you, hit that link above.
I think it's great.
Yeah, I think it's.
So do we have anything else to jam on today, or should we wrap it up there, you guys?
I don't have much real estate. It's the same thing again, low inventory, prices are climbing. I do have a new video coming out today, so when you guys are watching it, it'll have already come out, but it is how to get your house ready to go on the market, a few easy steps. So you can head to my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Chelsie Runnings. And I also did one last week on how to get your house ready to sell in the fall and winter months when it's dark and rainy.
So
and
great.
we'll put it in the link as well. We do our Tuesday night on the economy that was just published last night on YouTube, and then Friday afternoons on the markets. So if you want more market, more economy updates, this week we talked all about the elections and what the potential outcomes are and how we should look at that from an investor's standpoint. That's it.
That's it. That's all we got.
Well, hey, well, thanks everybody for watching. We'll catch you next week.